Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Risa Karkitaman. I'm a student of university. Will be also let me introduce the topic about the background of the issues. There, the timeline summarized this time.
Hello, this is Vijaya Karki. I'm going to explain the first part of our macroeconomics analysis, which focuses on the supply side cost shock and its impact on the economy. In this case, firms are facing higher input costs because of two main factors: tariffs on imported goods and higher energy prices. According to the ASAD model, when the cost of production increases, the short run aggregate supply curve shifts to the left. This means that businesses are producing less at higher costs. As a result, we can see three main effects. First, the general price level increases because firms face higher production costs and may pass these costs on to customers. Second, output growth slows down because higher costs make it more difficult for businesses to produce goods and services. And the third one is unemployment tends to increase, as some businesses may reduce production hiring or even employment because of higher costs. So we have rising prices together with weaker economic growth and higher unemployment. This situation is known as stagflation. The graph on the right shows how the US average effective tariff rate increased significantly from around 2.4% in 2024 to 9.9% in January 2026 before easing to 7.2% in May 2026. This clearly shows that tariffs become a significant cost shock for businesses. The important point here is that this type of inflation is not mainly caused by excessive demand. Therefore, simply increasing interest rates may not solve the underlying problem because the main cause is the increase in production costs. So, overall, this analysis shows how supply side shocks such as tariffs and higher energy costs can create inflation while also slowing economic growth. Moving on to the second part of the macroeconomics analysis, I will discuss inflation, unemployment, and the Phillips curve. Normally, the Phillips curve suggests an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. In simple terms, when inflation increases, unemployment is usually expected to decrease, and when unemployment increases, inflation is expected to fall. However, the current situation is different. As shown in the graph, US inflation increased from 2.9% in December 2025 to 4.2% in May 2026, before falling slightly to 3.5% in June 2026. At the same time, unemployment remained relatively high at around 4.3%, with projected unemployment reaching to 4.6%. This means that inflation and unemployment are rising at the same time. The situation contradicts the traditional short-run Phillips curve relationship. One possible explanation is that the economy is experiencing a supply side shock. For example, higher tariffs and higher production costs can push prices up, while at the same time, businesses may reduce production and employment. This creates a situation where the usual trade off between inflation and unemployment does not work as expected. Therefore, the economy may be experiencing a leftward shift of the short run Phillips curve rather than simply moving along the existing curve. In conclusion, the combination of rising inflation and relatively high unemployment highlights the difficulty faced by policymakers. Controlling inflation through higher interest rates may reduce demand, but it may not directly solve inflation caused by supply side problems. Thank you.
Now I will discuss microeconomic analysis third. which focuses on exchange rates, trade diversion, and real purchasing power. First, let's look at the information on the left. It explains how exchange rates affect international trade. The Chinese renminbi is estimated to be undervalued by around 20%, making China's exports more competitive. It also mentioned that tariff on Chinese goods caused some exports to shift from the United States to the European Union. This is known as a trade diversion, where trade moves from one market to another because of changes in trade policies. Now let's look at the chart on the right. It compares wage growth with the price growth in the United Kingdom and the United States in 2026. In the UK, wages increased by 3.6%, while prices increased by 3.3%, so real wages grew only slightly. In the USA, wages increased by 3.4%, but prices increased by 2.2%, giving workers a slightly larger improvement in purchasing power. The main message is that even when wages increase, people may not feel better off if prices also rise. High inflation reduces purchasing power and increases the cost of living. In conclusion, exchange rates, trade policies, and inflation all affect international trade and people's living standards. Thank you. Now I will discuss macroeconomic analysis 3, which focuses.
Thank you, my friend. So the next are the key findings. This slide presents 5 recommendations, which are, so to conclude, we can say that the cost of living crisis in